To call the February 4th, the February 18th OnPoint board to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We'll take a roll call at this time. Kimberly Bartnick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention to you, she called me, she's not feeling well, so I didn't,
Okay.
she wasn't able to come today.
Excused absence for Kimberly. Pam Brenner is notified us that she won't be here tonight. That's an excused absence. Glenn Brookhouse. Here. Jessica Castaneda is supposed to be online.
Here. Yep, I'm here.
We appreciate your attendance. Mark Dion. Here. Crystal Dale.
Not here.
I had not heard anything from her either, so. I am present. Beth Johnson,
Here.
Alice Kelsey,
Here.
Robin Clay. Robin Clay. Is she online?
No.
Nope. Jane Levine
Here.
and Karen Stratton.
Here.
We do have a forum to conduct business. Next item is provision for public comment. Is there anyone in the meeting room that would like to address the board in public comment on agenda items or anything in general? Second call. Anyone in the main room? First call for online. Megan, is there anyone online?
Is there anyone online that would like to address the board? Nope.
Hearing none, thank you, Mrs. Hamilton. Is there last call? Hearing none, I'll close the provision for public comment. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I do have two items. We have a presentation that I would like to put as 5A. And also at 13A, a closed session on the request of the executive director. Is there any other additions and then motion to approve an RFP under the finance at 8C? Is there any other additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Do I hear support? Support. Okay, I heard Glenn first there, so. Any further discussion? Hearing none. I'll just make this a little bit faster. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? The agenda has been approved. At this time, we have a presentation for a past member of Pastor Craig Van Beek. If you'll meet me up in front. And Mr. Whitty, if you would come along for. Your turn, Mr. Bishop. It has been an ongoing tradition of OnPoint to award plaque to commemorate the service of an individual for our board. And with the plaque that is going to be presented, I'm going to have Mr. Whitty read it into the record.
This award is presented in appreciation to Pastor Craig Van Beek on behalf of the staff and the board at OnPoint. Thank you for your dedication to the citizens of Allegan County and for your service on the board, 2021 through 2024.
I do appreciate it. And just so you know, I continue to serve as I'll stay on recipients' rights, and then I'll serve on the LRE as well to continue to be a voice for our group. So I'm excited. So my role's just changed a little tiny bit, not a whole lot. But I apologize. I do have to head out. The commissioner chair has me hopping. I have a meeting tonight and there's some Apple gift cards I need to get as well. Sorry.
I hope you got my email.
Thank you, everyone.
To make sure everyone understands some of the levity that Commissioner DeYoung and Commissioner Van Beek and myself and the rest of the Board of Commissioners have experienced is on Saturday, we had a scam that someone purportedly pretending to be me asked my fellow commissioners to get these gift cards to have a surprise recognition of employees. And Mr. DeYoung has a better sense of humor than I, because I would like to reach through the phone to throttle him. He said, well, what's this all about? And it was to have somebody buy them to buy gift cards so I could go and give them out to employees. And then it came down to Apple cards with giving the numbers off of them to this person that was, I don't even recognize the country that he was calling from. And that's, and the serious part of this is when you're at the level of government that Mark and I and Craig serve at, is our information's out there and everybody is trying to use that to get financial gain in ways that are just underhanded. And so we have to be very careful. We have to look at domain names, if it's a number that we recognize or not. And so no one fell for it this time. So hopefully we'll keep up that good record. So
Just enough to reel them back in.
yeah. Anyway, consent agenda is next. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anyone would like to remove to discuss later? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to consider the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Motion by DeYoung. Do I hear a support?
Or
Thank you, Alice. And all in favor say yes.
yes.
All opposed? That motion carries. We have now down to number 7, Program Committee. Chairman Alice, would you give us a report?
Yes, we had a presentation today by Tara and Tracy on the children's services. And they talked about the fact that they are nearly fully staffed and they do have an increase on their, particularly they mentioned that they have now a teen group that they were feeling that was a kind of a new service that they were offering, that they were pleased to have. We had Gina give her first report to the program committee, and that went real well. She said she's now, what, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. I told her she's a veteran now, but she still said she's got some things to learn. And Kathy gave us an update on customer service and all the work that she does. She said that she is noticing an increase in grievances, but there's also been an increase in clients served. So she felt like that it was probably coordinated in relation to that. And Matt talked to us a little bit about it's still so far so good with Crane and people learning how to use that system. And that they are gearing up. The Ellery site review is going to be in April. And they along with some other things too. So he also felt like they were busy, but I did this, and they said, yeah. So they're handling things. Is there anything else I should have mentioned? So,
Is there any questions for the program chair? Hearing none, thank you very much for your report this evening, Mrs. Kelsey. Next on the agenda is the Finance Committee report. Chairman Johnson.
Okay, administratively, the new cell phones are being phased in, and as of the month of January, through January, about 90% of them were out to the employees, and there's some technical strategy and security and confidentiality that they've worked with IBM to make sure the phones are safe for client use, basically. The new server was working on it's working on getting the old streamline like records over to the new PCE system, and that's still going on, and it started in January. The appraisal software that Raymond is working with us on is continuing to be finalized with pinpoint questions, so the training can go smoother. Is that correct? Okay, got that. We started a new partnership with a new wealth management service, and that is also through Raymond. And we have ended with Raymond James in this past month. The big fun one to report on is that our monster generator had a load test and it was perfect. So it's finally running. There'll be a second one when the air conditioners turn on. So stay tuned sometime in May. On page 8 and 9, this is just a different way of looking at the turnover and recruitment. As I understand from our commissioners, the county has been using something like this for some time. But it just gives us more information to say, hey, 2.5% turnover for 1 quarter. That sounds pretty darn efficient considering the other 97.5% is still working. So more data and just learning how to use it to make better HR decisions and procedures. So any questions so far? Okay.
Is there any questions for Beth at this time?
Okay, I'm gonna jump to page 13. We'll come back to the action items in a minute. But things are looking pretty good on page 13. The summary of our revenue and expenses. Medicaid subtotal is at on the positive 354,682, which is a nice solid number. These numbers, this financial report is through December. So you're just talking the first quarter of our fiscal year. And the same with the CCBHC subtotal 375 and 300. not bad for a first quarter, and Andre was happy with it. So if he's happy, I'm happy. With the general fund, you would, in the second to the last column and the second to the last line, there's 24,977. We took out of general fund, redirected it, and that's for the non-Medicaid expenditures for CCBHC. That's a common practice that we do use the general fund for. So, any questions? All right. Next page, the change in net position. First quarter, that means 25% is about where we should be on the far right column. Healthy Michigan capitation, 31.86%. It had a little jump. That was because more people enrolled in Healthy Michigan in the month of December. Okay, I gotta read my notes sideways here. Two more down, or the next percentage down, 23.15%. That's the CCBHC capitation. We were projecting like 2,100 visits, daily visits for the whole month of December. We came in around 1,040 or so. And quality control here is working on, cleaning up our records. Part of this is rolling from the old streamline into PCE and training and making sure all the correct boxes are checked and signatures are there and so forth. So as employees get better trained, more comfortable with it, some of those visits will increase because they're considered non-visits until all the work is completed on the record side. Going over to expenses, the fringe benefits, it's at 18.48%. That is for the health savings account, HSA, as a benefit. OnPoint pays, funds the HSA for the employees. New year, new HSA fund, that's going to be that'll have a decent jump next month. So we're not so concerned that it's under for the month of December. It's nice for us, as Andre said, the provider network services, 25.14%, right on the money being 1 quarter done in the fiscal year. So we've held our costs with providers, which is a nice operational management viewpoint. But we just need to understand that providers are out there, and they're elbow to elbow with people, and we're just working very hard to keep good relationships there. So keeping an eye on that one. Jumping down to total operating expenses, 22.64%, not bad. It be based on our total operating revenue at 23.65. So they're both a little low, but they're both in line with each other. Andre, you have anything else you want to add to the report on page 14?
The only thing I will just add is that you'll see some of the percentages perhaps a little low on the expense side, and that simply reflects the budget, which contains items associated with grants. And then we just haven't brought in the revenue because we're not actually incurring the expenses on the expense side. So as those dollars come in, the expenses will go up and they'll always be offsets. They'll be offsetting each other. So, yeah.
Okay,
But that's it.
all right.
Well, then our net change of position is.
Oh, yes, our net change in position, year to date, as the end of December is 490,442. So almost $500,000, which is good the first 3 months. So now we have to pay the bills, as I always say, and that is on page 10 and 11. So, and then we have an extra. But on page 10, I move that the OnPoint Board approve the January 2025 disbursements totaling $4,109,938,039.
Do I hear a support for that motion?
Support.
Support by Jane. Being that we are spending money, this will be a roll call. Glenn Brookhouse,
Yes.
Jessica Castaneda,
Yes, although I can't vote, but yes.
I just wanted to make sure that you're included.
Yep, thank you.
Mark DeYoung,
Yes.
Gil Dugan says yes. Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Jane Levine,
Yes.
and Karen Stratton.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay.
Continue.
Yep. Page 11, we had to add a conservation service, SKP Design. And what SKP Design is doing is putting together some sound art where it muffles the sound in between the examination rooms or whatever you call them, the clinical rooms for patient. So I move that the OnPoint Board approve the following list of provider contracts for fiscal year 2025 SKP Design.
That's made, Beth's made a motion. Do I hear support? Support. Support by Glenn. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. Karen Stratton,
Yes. Here.
Jane
Yeah.
Levine,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Gil Dugan says yes. Mark DeYoung
Yes.
and Glenn Brookhouse.
Yes.
That motion carries. Is there any further,
Yeah, we got to pass that out.
just a moment?
This is the third motion that we added. And the RFP is the request for proposal. And it pertains to the mat room on the south side of the building.
Does everyone have a copy of the RFP? I can make them available for the public. Okay.
For the procedure is to do the motion and then there's the action.
Yes.
Okay. It's double checking. All right, while Mark is passing that out, I make a motion that the OnPoint Board approve the request for proposal to be published for the design and construction services for the mat room.
Do I hear support of that motion? Yes, Karen,
Now,
support by Karen. Do you want me to, guide the discussion here, or would you like to?
well, I can, I didn't know if Andre or wanted to, you want to?
We can just briefly to what this summarizes. We have a large room on the backside of the building. It was originally intended for medication assisted treatment. But the room became known as the mat room. After moving into the building, and as we experienced the award of the CCBHC services, which really increased the volume we had for counseling needs and outpatient needs, we really became quite pinched on clinical space. So we talked about our options and have decided that the best thing we could do would be to convert that large space into individual counseling rooms, group rooms, things like that. So this, as we went through the process, talking with the HRSA, HRSA grant organization from the federal government that we received our funding from for MAT services, We had intended to use those funds for the construction of this, room for Matt. And so they suggested that we, go through the process by putting a formal RFP out, to do that. And this will allow us to use those funds for that purpose. So this is a step in the process of complying with our federal grant, organization to be able to use the services that will still allow us to do MAT services in the community, but not through the way in which originally designed. So we'll have office spaces to help support that instead of a large clinic room.
All right, to further any discussion, there is a map on page 5 or a layout of the floor plan that we are considering for this. This request for proposal is for the design part of this and the construction oversight for this. This will be put together, and those services is what this RFP garners back to us, or it'll go through our project management at the county level. We have a department there that we are going to use to peruse and qualify and quantify the different aspects of this RFP for our benefit. But we need to go and approve the release of this proposal. So, you want to have a few moments to read through this or breeze through it a little bit, or do you want to, are you comfortable in asking questions, or? Yes, Alice.
Well, just reiterate what you just said, because I think, excuse me.
One demerit.
I think what I heard you say is, we're going to use this room kind of double, right? It's gonna be for, just, outpatient services, and then it still allows us to offer mat services.
Right.
Okay,
Maybe the piece to clarify is that, mat services, when we envisioned it, it was going to be a walk-in clinic that provided methadone dosage. And that just never seemed to be the right idea once we got into it a little further. More and more of medications for MAT, for, opioid use disorder is being done through individual counseling or individual medication appointments. And so it doesn't require a whole clinic like we used to think of it as. So now it's handled much more like we would handle psychotropic medications. So it'll be done through appointments with physicians or nurse practitioners, right in the very rooms that we would have had the clinic in. Anywhere we happen to schedule that appointment, that can happen there.
And basically, on page 5, this will show a office space for when you come in, you register, and there's a bathroom facility right there. There will be a waiting room, and then when you're called, you can go back to the family services part of it, or to the individual counseling rooms. And those are designated on the floor plan options here in the different colors. So, and the entryway will be on the south side of the building, and come in that way and receive your services that way.
Mr. Chairman, there's also a passageway option
Yes,
from the area where clients ordinarily are cared for right now, through a small hallway that gets them back to that area by accompaniment as well. So it has really two ways to get to it.
yes. Is there any further questions? Seeing none? Is there any further comments? All right, we're basically voting on releasing the request to release this. There is a key dates that are on the front as to the flow of this, as when we will see it back, and having it perused by the county capital services personnel. With that, the motion has been made by Mrs. Johnson. It has been supported by Karen Stratton. Since we are spending money here, We will start with a roll call. Mark DeYoung,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
elect Jane Levine,
Yes.
Karen Stratton,
Yes.
Ben Brookhouse,
Yeah.
and I say yes. That motion carries. Will you affect the appropriate, notification and we'll proceed with this? Is there anything else, Mrs. Johnson, on your, report for finance?
No.
All right. Moving on, no meetings at recipient rights, so we will dispense with that. Number 10 is the LRE update. Who do we have as a,
I have information on that, Mr. Chairman. Received a call from Stephanie this afternoon, who was intended to be here tonight. She fell ill and so will not be able to attend, and there was no substitute able to be arranged at the short hour, so no answer, no report tonight.
no report? Well, this makes for a little bit shorter meeting. Number 11 is my executive committee report. We had our meeting on the 14th, and we had a compliance update on different topics. We also had discussion on the EIHP contract and legal matters stemming from that. We had update on recruitment. We have appointed one and lost, going to lose two here by the 1st of April. So we're in the process of shifting membership and getting that trained. The CEO evaluation was submitted, and we are going to have a closed session on that later in the meeting. We have the contract negotiations have been going forward. I think we're pretty close to having a contract that will be taken care of our executive director and ourselves very nicely. We reviewed the T board task. We looked at the policy and the changes that we are looking at, and we'll have approval of that next month. We looked at the bylaws and the wording, and we'll have that next month also. The LRE financials we discussed. We have looked at the CHA appointment. Mr. Whitty notified that he has been named co-chairperson of the Legislation and Policy Committee, and congratulations. We see a lot of good things coming from that appointment. I shared a few comments about the chairman's and the assembly meeting at Kalamazoo. We also had a briefing on the other agency issues. I also attended the pension meeting with Andre and our new people that are going to be handling that. I'm very impressed with the engagement that they are going to offer our employees to help them be more financially stable and supportive when they retire from our organization. And they're very much more involved than what we have seen in the past. So with that, is there any questions for me? Hearing none, thank you very much for your attention. Next is the 11th. I formally have to ask if there is any board comments or questions as to the board conflict of interest. Is there anything that any members had any problem with? Okay. We will review and discuss that at the meeting for approval, in March. Is there any additions or questions about the bylaws or policies? That was part of the homework, so,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. Whitting,
I did provide for your review a single page document. I
yes,
hope all members have received, in which the recommended changes to the bylaws and the policy 201 are recommended. And so I don't know if you want to discuss them, you want to sleep on them, you want to, but they're all there for your discussion.
everyone has that summary sheet in their packet.
Well, it's on the table too. If you come to the table, Megan, or not?
It's only on the table. It's
Okay.
not.
Let me get those.
Okay, let's go ahead and hand them out so everyone can read them. You know. Executive committee has, so,
I created them since we got, so.
okay.
Yes, we got.
Yes, yeah.
Well, largest number of recommended changes come from the change in title that you accomplished earlier this year. But there are a few just points that I think are worth noting, especially under the on vote B, which is policy 201. We did not want to make a note that board members will should experience a change in their reimbursements for per diems, potentially for mileage too. I'm not 100% sure about that one, but the county commission has made a change in its payment for per diems to county commissioners. And our policy is to pay board members here what the county pays to the board members, the commissioners. So as that goes up, yours goes up. So that change is not a change in the wording, but it will be a change in the impact, and just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Because this wording makes it so our policy follows what the county board of commissioners does.
Right.
And when we set those rates for half days and full days, this organization follows that. And those new rates this year are $55 for a half day and $110 for a full day. The mileage rate, just to go, we were paying 60%. Now it is a full 100% of the IRS rate, instead of the 60%. And that is now at 70 cents per mile. So when you're filling it out, make sure that Tim knows that it's a round trip.
Yeah.
It's not just one way. So, and I try to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. Then I'm approving those. And, it's not per meeting, like we have all our meetings on one night. We have to get here.
Yeah.
And then your travel back home. So, try to make it a little easier for everybody and to really take care of the commitment and the wonderful gifts that each one of us bring to this board, to make sure that it's not a burden as much as a burden. Mr. Whitty, would you continue?
Item B3 just simply aligns the language of the board policy with the language of the bylaws and moves the nominating committee to a list of standing committees, and then adds the building committee to a list of examples for ad hoc meetings. The chief financial officer language is substituted with chief administrative officer. And then there's 3 items where wording becomes less of a passive voice and more of an active voice. Really, that's about the only change there. So those are the recommendations. And Mr. Chairman pointed out, coming back to the board next month with a request for approval of these documents. So there's certainly time for additional changes or rejection of all what has been recommended, whatever you want to do between now and then. And it's not the only, you're welcome to offer suggestions too.
Yep, so if you have any further suggestions, please get them in to myself or Mr. Whitty or to Megan, and we will have consideration of them, next month. If this is, and we'll be looking at these, and if these are acceptable, we will create that, entire, document and body of that document and get those changes in there for further approval. Is there any other questions? Hearing none? Thank you very much for your attention to that. Yeah. If you will continue with your report, Mr. Whitty.
My report was relatively short last month. I had one mistake in the listing I put under the board CMHA Winter Conference. Neglected to add Alice Kelsey to the list of our 5 board members that were along with us at the time, so apologies for oversight there. But very good to have as many board members as we had at the conference. I think that's a good practice to continue as much as it's possible. I think I'll just comment a little bit further in the absence of Stephanie on the LRE situation. The LRE has had, and Alice is, of course, a board member here with us for, and can augment whatever I'm saying or yank me back or whatever. There really are 2 legal situations that are on the brink, and these have been discussed in public session for the board and the LRE, so it should not be considered a secret. The LRE has had concerns, as you know, about the contract for fiscal 25 the department put forward and expected them to sign without negotiation of 3 items that were objectionable. And so that remains. The 3 PHPs in the state that have filed suit against the department have been joined by 1 more PHP, Region 6. And the LRE board is being asked the question about whether or not it wishes to join that effort, as it's not seen progress so far in the resolution of the issues that are before the board. So that's one issue. The second issue is a newer one. A few years ago, the department made a controversial finding of the LRE, or with the LRE, in which they did not allow the LRE to use some of the dollars in its current or its past year reports to satisfy current year deficits. The reason why they chose to do that is according to, they call it GAAP standards, general accepted accounting practices. As long as a prior fiscal year has not been closed, it is considered to be, from an accounting standpoint, as I understand it, possible to adjust those statements so that revenues that are needed from one year and available from a prior year can be put together to make it so that all comes out in the wash. The department said, no, you can't do that. That year that you were in surplus has to be refunded back to the state, and the year that you're in deficit needs to remain in deficit. The interesting part is that if you go back a couple more years, the years in which the department actually owed the LRE money, that has not been settled yet. So there's this mixture of, what rule are you applying to us? The LRE that could engage in a lawsuit to try to stop that. It hasn't made a decision to do that, although it's given its consideration. And as the attorney for the LRE, one of their strategies was to contact the Attorney General of the state of Michigan and engage them in the process. The state of Michigan's Attorney General was not aware of the activity going on with the department and their attorneys. And so a meeting was held and a decision was reached if no further legal action was taken by the LRE to halt the further collection of that $13 million. The $4 million was done. It couldn't be stopped by the time this discussion happened. But they sit there in this brink now of knowing what needs to go on next. So those are the 2 legal matters that are still up in the air. I don't have anything more to say about that. But, frankly, the upshot for us is that we're already at a point regionally where the dollars are very close. And I'm not sure that the LRE can survive a year in which its members can't get paid and its members' providers can't get paid if dollars are not available to pay them. And so this is important, it's important policy stuff. But it's being applied consistently by the state. And then the LRA, of course, is in a situation where, it doesn't have the greatest, hand of cards to play when it comes to dealing with the state on these issues, because it's been found, in the hot seat for some time with contractual issues. So I'll just say that, just to be aware, I think it's important for this board to be aware of that finances are still a very important problem. Legal action is contemplated, and it would not surprise me if some form of that went forward. So that's all I have on that point, unless there's questions before I move on with others.
Is there any questions from Mr. Whitty at this time? All right, go ahead.
Because I wouldn't have answers anyway, probably. I did want to tell you that I did put a section here about the federal funding alert. When this was written, we were freshly into the news that all of us heard across the popular media, the news waves about the department, the Office of Management and Budget issuing a memo to freeze or pause the expenditure of federal funds across the board, which was rescinded. Although, as we understand it, the executive order given to the department by the president had not been changed and continues to be out there. They did send a letter to Representative Huizenga expressing concern about this. He did respond back, not really in terms of, well, as you might expect, I'll just put it that way. And so we will continue to be advocates as best we can if we see ourselves in any way threatened by the dollars that are due to us through grants that we've won fair and square and are implementing services for the benefit of the people here. So I think, and then I'll just wrap up by saying there's a long list of issues that are listed on the back page, page 26, of items that we've had concerns about as an association. This is across the state, and yeah, I'm just going to say that the time is right for there to be some good news in this department. We really are seeing the drops in Medicaid revenue, the drops in enrollment, even though our costs really don't change. The people we serve don't really change that much from year to year. And yet the fluctuations in revenue are something that are quite remarkable. And for that, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll just, I'll say we'll see what happens next week.
Is there any questions for Mr. Whitty? Seeing none? Going back to a point of business that I did not take in consideration under number 11 in my executive committee report. I need to have a nomination committee seated, and I would like at this time to propose for that nomination committee for your confirmation, Alice Kelsey, Mark DeYoung, Ben Brookhouse, and Jane Levine. I seek confirmation for that committee. Do I hear a motion?
I move to confirm that committee.
Do I hear support? Support by Karen. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. And they'll meet after our closed session this evening and take care of their business. With that, we are now on to provision for public comment. Mrs. Hamilton, is there anyone online?
Is there anyone online that would like to address the board through public comment? Nope.
Hearing none, last chance for public comment for this evening. Hearing none, I'll close that. And I have a motion for us to go into closed section.
So, or you have a motion?
I have the
Oh,
motion,
you have it, okay.
and I'll read it
All right.
because I was trained the last time we didn't do it just correctly. Okay. I move that the OnPoint Board of Directors meet in closed session under section 8(1)(a) of the Open Meetings Act to consider a periodic personal evaluation of Chief Executive Officer Mark Whitty, a public officer who has requested that this evaluation be discussed in a closed hearing. Do I hear a support for that motion?
I'll support it.
Support by Alice. All in favor of that motion, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed?
Chairman, I think you need a voice, or you need a roll call for purposes of 2/3 majority determination, I think.
Okay, then we can do that very quickly. Ben Brookhouse,
Yes.
Mark DeYoung,
Yes.
I say yes. Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Jane Levine,
Yes.
and Karen Stratton.
Yes.
That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is not quite 12 positions. But can we,
But it's 100% tonight.
well, let me ask a technical question.
Open booking.
Is it of the appointed members or is it of the seats that are provided for them?
Check our resource a minute.
Okay. Because I would be under the understanding that it'd be the people that are appointed that make up the body.
So going into closed session, I'll read from the Open Meetings Act handbook. Section 7.1 of the OMA sets out the procedures for calling a closed session. A 2/3 roll call vote of members elected or appointed and serving is required to call for a closed session, except for the closed sessions permitted under sections A, B, C, G, I, J. Which I don't think I've got. I don't know if that's one of those or not. Roll call vote, the purpose or purposes for calling closed session shall be entered into the minutes of the meeting at which the vote was taken. So. That's what it says.
And as of right now, we have officially 11.
That's right. Oh, we have 12. We have 12, actually.
But we have one open seat.
No, that's what's held by a deal. Brenner's still on, so.
Yes, that's true. So we do not have 3/2.
Okay.
So at that time, the motion fails. We will try to go back into closed session next month with a similar vote to conduct the evaluation of the chief executive officer. And I'll make a motion, notation on the record that it failed. Okay, with that. Board member comments. Who wants to go first? Start off, yep, Mr. Dion.
Well, I was at the conference and had some very good breakouts. One of them was a suicide survivor that I think she had a book, didn't she?
Yeah. Well,
She had worked
from,
yeah, but just to get the perspective of someone who attempted suicide and survived, so that you get a little better glimpse into what was going on in their life and, you know, just how far do you go? And having a few people have completed suicide near and dear to me, it would have been nice to know what was going on. So, we need those kind of people to step up and give us those insights. It's very much appreciated.
Mrs. Johnson. Mrs. Coulter.
I was just gonna mention that, the CMHA, they put all the PowerPoint slides of all the presentations up on the website. So especially the legislative update, it's like, I looked at it like I could never possibly write that all down, so I was asking about it, and sure enough, it's up there, so, all of them, I think it would be, I really appreciate that. And, we had two keynote speakers that were just awesome. One is a woman who is living with schizophrenia, and just her experiences and the fact that it started when she was a teenager, and I just can't imagine that and puberty at the same time. And she was an incredible speaker. And then, of course, the last was a man with Down syndrome who won the Ironman competition and is the only person in the world that's ever won Ironman competition with Down syndrome. And this whole idea of trying to be 1% better. And I have been thinking about that ever since. It's like, that could be a real, could be applied to anybody, for a lots of different circumstances. So I really was impressed with the lineup this year.
Karen? Glenn?
Also, thank you.
Jane?
I have nothing, thank you.
One thing that occurred during the assembly, there at Kalamazoo, was that, basically the association has been working at, a retirement program for Robert Sheehan, who is our executive director. And they have come to a point where Alan Bolter is going to be groomed and educated to be able to do that. And as Alan takes over, that, he is going to groom and train a new legislative person to help complement him as he takes the helm of the association. Robert's going to stay around for a length of period to help mentor both of them until he finally retires fully and goes off into the sunset, which I don't think he'll ever do. But that's the happenings with our leadership at the association. So, and thank you all for coming on such a cold night. Appreciate getting the business of the board done. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
And support? Support by Jane. All in favor, say yes.
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 Stand adjourned.